Hello gamers and Stadia players, welcome to episode number 23 of the Sounds of Stadia podcast. I'm your host Chris, joined by my fellow teammates waiting in the wings this week, Tom and Richie. Welcome.
Hey, what's up?
Hello. Hope you're both doing well. We've got another jam-packed week for you all out there listening this week with some fun-filled game announcements, big corporate events being delayed, Google changing their plans, and our channel hosting a fantastic Let's Play live stream featuring none other than the actual creators of the game themselves, brought to you by Tom. But first, before we jump into all that juicy action, myself and the rest of the SOS team this week are not alone. We're joined. Someone has snuck into our podcast.
Like a ninja.
Like a ninja. So we'd like to give a special warm British welcome to our fellow Stadia friend, co-host of the very successful Stadia Talk show and YouTube channel, all the way from across the pond in the Sunshine State with all his oranges, none other than Chase, ladies and gentlemen. Round of applause.
Hey.
Welcome,
Hey,
Chase.
guys.
Welcome.
How are y'all doing?
Good. You had to get that y'all in there. Just
Y'all.
Y'all.
prove that you are indeed from the United States.
Yeah.
So, before we dive into our usual rigmarole, it is customary that every time we get a guest on our show, we want to know a little bit about them. So this is the opportunity, Chase, to tell us a little bit about your gaming history. So show your age, where did you start off, and what brings you on this lovely journey that has eventually brought you to Google Stadia.
I don't like how this is starting.
It's all on you, mate. We're just going to sit back for half an hour and just listen.
Yep, pretty much.
No. Well, I mean, so the first gaming console that I ever had the chance or pleasure to I guess experience was my dad had an Atari 2600, and I got to play Pitfall. I literally remember just being like, what is this? Like, imagination of a child. You're just like, wow, this is amazing. This is the coolest thing ever. Then I graduated up to the to the Nintendo Game Boy, then to the Sega Genesis, then to the Super Nintendo, playing Yoshi's Island. That was like, again, another just mind-blowing experience. My dad actually got the first Sony PlayStation for me, and I remember we went down to those in the States, they'll know this, but we used to have, they were called Super Kmarts, basically the evil twin of Walmart. But they had those demo discs, and you could go and pick the demo disc up and try like 12 games. And I just was like, man, this is like crazy that instead of cartridge media, now there's this disc that you put into a gaming platform, like it was just mind blowing. Then my friend down the street got the first Xbox. And when I say first, I didn't realize I'm saying this, not the first ever made Xbox, but like
I was going to say they're in a very privileged position, your friends.
But yeah, but they got the Xbox, and I got to see Halo, and I'm like, God, this is crazy. And then the clan that I've played with probably since my freshman year of college, and we've stuck together, they got me over onto the PlayStation 3. I had a PlayStation 2, was really big into SOCOM and playing those games. And, they were like, hey, you should check out this game called Call of Duty Modern Warfare. And I was like, well, what is this? And heaven help everybody. It was the game that I think that game and Halo changed everything for the gaming landscape. I credit those games for really changing everything for everybody. And that's kind of where I'm at now. I've kind of graduated up through FPSs and third-person shooters, and now I'm more into kind of an MMORPG. It's almost like a fine, aged whiskey. You're just kind of like, this was nice, kind of like gateway alcohol. And now I'm moving over to, this nice, this nice fine-aged whiskey, which is MMOs and RPGs. So that's kind of where I'm at now.
Great, awesome. So have you got a favorite game from gaming history that is, as soon as someone says, what's your favorite game, your default, you can see it, you can hear it in your mind?
Yeah, actually, this one is kind of, it's strange because of all the games I've played, it's one that I never really talk about, and no one's ever asked me really that question. But so Zipper, if you remember them, they were the ones that made SOCOM. They were the big kind of like developer. They made a game called MAG. I don't know if you guys ever heard of that one.
Yeah,
it's
the
called
GoldenEye similar style game.
Yeah, it was massive action game. You could get up to 256 players on a map, and at that time it was insanity on a console. So That was my favorite game, even to now. Just the way the game was set up, it didn't have the best graphics, but the customization, the depth of it. You had 3 factions that you could be a part of. There was Valor, Sever, and I'm missing the last one. It was a weird name, but anyways, it was a fun game.
Yeah, I think they've well gone now on the Zipper Interactive. I think Sony closed them down.
Yeah, I think so.
Bastards.
Yeah.
Bastards.
Still, by today's standards, though, 256 players in a single game is pretty epic for a console, isn't it? So
yeah, I remember when Fortnite came out, people were making a big deal that it was 100 players in a map.
If only they knew.
That's
if only they knew.
Yeah.
But yeah, Mag, that is an interesting one.
It was crazy though, because just real quick, the frames in it, like now we're so used to like with these bigger maps, it's like, oh, the frames are smooth, everything's nice. You get into 256 players and it's just like your console was just like, I can't handle all of that. So it was just like freaking out. So usually most of us would play the 64 player maps and they were smooth, they ran just fine. So it was a really cool game. The concept was cool. The fact that there was factions, you could be tied to a faction. There was a lot of crap talk. And when you died, they had the death. They called it the death chat. So you could hear the person that killed you. They would be talking to each other. It was great.
Just to rub it in.
Exactly.
Days of kill cams, but also audio as well. Kill audio.
So would you say we are primed for a remaster then, Chase? Would you be clambering for a reboot on Stadia with 2,600 players maybe?
Let me tell you, if that happened, so I was excited about Baldur's Gate 3. Oh, God help us if they bring Mag. Oh, no.
That's fanboy central right there.
It's owned by Sony, so it's unlikely, but a spiritual successor of some description.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's it. Magazine, excellent. So it's great to know. So you kind of, by the sounds of it, took the Nintendo route initially and then branched out to everything else. Did you have a PC history as well with that, or were you strictly console?
No, I did play on the PC. So it's funny, some of the games that we're getting on Stadia, I've actually played on PC. So Serious Sam, I played on PC. I played both Baldur's Gate, so 1 and 2 on PC. Loved them to death. They were great games. And I think another game that I don't ever talk about a lot is StarCraft. I played, God, I can't even tell you how many hours of that game I played on PC and competitively. Because it's just a fun game, fun time. A lot of my friends played that as well. So
interesting. How much time do you generally get to play games nowadays then in amongst the rest of your life?
Well, before Stadia, I maybe got 8 hours a week, which is, nothing. And now I'm getting probably about 20 to 25, which to me is a huge win. It's kind of a rebirth of gaming for me in a way.
Yeah, I've noticed that since Stadia. I feel like, especially in this last week, actually, with Spitlings coming out, which we will talk about indefinitely. But the ability, my Samsung phone has now got the opportunity to play Stadia. So I found myself, when you've got those little pockets of time, those little half an hour windows, 20 minutes spare, I found myself syncing my PlayStation DualShock 4 up to the phone and just playing that for 10, 15 minutes on the go. And that accessibility has made it so seamless to just jump in and out of a game. And I have found myself playing it more regular in these little pockets of time. As an adult, you do struggle to find, and you've got to use it when you can. And it's the reality of Stadia being played anyway, I think, is starting to now turn its corner on rolling out to the masses.
You know what? I'm one who's never been interested in gaming on my phone. But since Spitlings, I kind of want to be able to play it on my phone. I commute by car, so I'm driving, so that sort of thing. I'm never in a place where I just got my phone to play a game. But Spitlings is one of them. I could play for 15 minutes on tea break at work.
Yeah. And it works brilliantly, like these little indie games. I played a little bit of SteamWorld Dig 2, which we will get into as well. And it's those little games that actually a small screen it's not detrimental to the gameplay. I always think something like you were saying there, Chase, Mag, an open world shooter, wouldn't be as great because you don't have that visual ability to spot your enemies off in the distance because it's on such a small screen. But yeah, Spitlings, little indie games like SteamWorld, I think they lend themselves really well to we say a small screen, but realistically all of our phones are probably 6-7 inch displays at this point, so they're not small by any stretch of the imagination.
Bigger than the original Game Boy.
Yeah, well, yeah, exactly. So,
good shout, Richie.
Yeah, Richie wants Tetris on Stadia.
I do.
But yes, so that's great. I do have one question as well while we do have you on this episode. You've had it hung up in the background for a couple of weeks now, I believe. Was that an Orlando Soccer MLS jersey?
Yeah, so I've actually followed Orlando City since they were, and it's weird. The American soccer system is, and I have to say soccer because if I say football, oh God, it's such
an audience.
I know. It's footy, you know, that's what everybody likes to call it. But so basically, our lower leagues, we don't have promotion and relegation. So to get into, you know, MLS, you have to buy your way into the league. They were in the third division for, let's see, 2011, 2012, 2013, 2014. So 4 years before they got into Major League Soccer. And then when they made the jump, I was already a season ticket holder. And I was like, you know what, let me make that jump with them. And sadly, I've had a falling out with them. This was the first year that I've not had season tickets because I just don't. I don't want to get off topic, but the ownership is just not great. And there's just been a lot of issues with how they've decided to tackle player management and everything else. And maybe you know, people walking away, because there's a lot of people that walked away from the team this year because of the shenanigans. Maybe they will change their ways. Maybe they won't. So we'll see what happens.
Me and Chris know quite a lot about bad ownership of a football club we support. We're both Newcastle United fans, and
which is actually which is why I brought that up, Chase, because I myself am an MLS fan too, soccer. New York City FC, I believe we started at the same. We started
dirty talk, you.
Exactly, but I believe they both started their inaugural season the same year against each other was the first match, if I recall. I remember watching it, and I think it was a 5-4 victory to New York, if I'm not mistaken.
No, the opening game was 1-1, and I literally remember the goal. So, so the first goal was scored by, oh God, he was a U.S. men's national team player, and he's not with them anymore, and I can't think of his name right now. But he scored the first goal, and then Kaká scored off of a free kick that went off of a defender into the goal, and that was at the Citrus Bowl.
Must be thinking of a different match then. But yes, so that is my. I do have the jerseys as well. So, but enough FIFA talk, which hopefully will be on Stadia soon, where we can play 22-man football or soccer, depending on your country of origin out there. But enough of that. Thomas, would you kindly do the roll call and introduce?
I suppose I can. You're talking about the Super Sexy Special Stadia Story segment. Got it right this week. AKA The News.
Time delay. Chase, would you like to echo that?
Wait for the late
news.
Several hour time delay. But you will get your news eventually. And we've had a crazy busy week, actually. Every week with Stadia starts off really quietly. And it creeps along to a day or two in, I think, shit, we're not going to have any topics for this week's show. What can we pull out of the hat to talk about for over an hour? And lo and behold, we are delivered a lovely package of details. For better or for worse, we've got a chock full busy week this week. Starting off with top of the list, GDC has been delayed indefinitely until the summer. So we expected it. But those light beer creators over at Corona have screwed us over once again in the gaming community.
I just want to point out, Chris, before you go further, you can't say something's been delayed indefinitely until the summer.
Yes,
it's a contradiction of terms.
Well, it's been delayed indefinitely.
Until the summer.
Yeah, until the summer.
It's been pushed back, okay?
Well, grammar aside, thank you, Richard. It's been delayed. Until the summer because of coronavirus, which I did see an article this week which said a lot of they've lost about $170 million in shares purely down to people not buying their brand of beer because of the virus, which has nothing to do, as anyone who's got any shred of common sense out there will know that they're not associated to each other. Same with a lot of people I've heard stories of they've not been getting a Chinese takeaway purely because it's associated.
Because they're all imported from China.
Everything's imported, the food from China, even to your local restaurant, yes.
People be crazy.
Stop buying cars. Stop buying cars, because everything's...
Well, I mean, we've spoke about one thing you won't get with Stadia is these new next gen consoles coming out at the end of the year. Apparently, their development and build is also going to be affected by coronavirus, their production. So yeah, you get your PlayStation 5 later this year, and it could well come ingrained indefinitely, Richie, with coronavirus.
So you saying that if you purchase Stadia, that you're not going to get COVID-19? Is that what you're telling me?
You don't need a delivery. You could just do it from your household right now.
If you're just using browser, yeah.
Yeah. There you go. So stay germ-free, ladies and gentlemen. Stay alive with us all on Stadia. We will outlast them, if anything else. The Master Race is the one that's still alive at the end.
It's. I was gonna say it's a really sad situation, to be, and I know we're joking about it, but nothing but positive thoughts to the folks impacted by this. It's a situation it's sad, and unfortunately, it's going to affect not just the gaming market, it's affecting every market possible right now. So, I think everyone's going to see impact, sadly, with this.
Yeah, it has almost like a knock-on effect where, again, with any virus, the larger it spreads, the more people get brought into the unfortunate situation.
I've genuinely had to, in my day job, do a risk assessment regarding coronavirus.
Yeah,
and how it might affect us.
In my own life as well, I'm currently in the market looking for a new home, in terms of like getting onto the ladder, so to speak, and it's having an impact on that as well. So it really is having like a spreaded influence over everything. And as you say, it is really sad to think about. So our thoughts go out to everyone out there who has been affected by it too.
Yep.
And speaking of things that have been affected, as we mentioned, GDC has been delayed. So we had rumours. There was a lot of people, a lot of game companies and developers. Sony was probably one of the biggest ones who have dropped out recently in the last fortnight. But it's inevitable, I think, that it was coming to this, where because it requires so many people traveling from all over the world to one specific location, and this is very much a meet and greet location, GDC, so where a lot of developers and publishers shake hands and agree contracts and go and have their lovely luxurious meals, I'm sure, and share a couple drinks. So
trade ideas.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, and it's kind of came as no surprise. It's one of those unfortunate situations where the company behind GDC, I think people were concerned with, did they have the financial backing to reorganize? How will their insurance company cover this? But evidently something's worked out, and I think they've probably done the right thing by delaying it until the summer. So we've got that there. So thankfully, though, Google, as our second story of the week, have turned around and came out with what they're describing as a digital developers summit. So there are going to be Google kind of conferences, but we presume they're going to be digital, right, gents? They're just going to be broadcast out there?
Yeah. I mean, one of the things we should take away from the GDC postponement as well is that it has been announced that they are refunding all of the tickets for anybody who had planned on attending it, and all of the speakers who were originally invited to present or had planned speeches, presentations, and so on. They've all been offered the opportunity to use GDC's online platform as well to be able to distribute those talks too. Because at the end of the day, you're talking about people who have put a lot of time and effort into preparations ready for this, quite frankly, a huge event within the industry. So it is a huge shame that something like coronavirus has been affecting the gaming industry, but it's affecting everything in the world. That being said, we do need to still try to make sure that life goes on. So, the organizers behind GDC have been fantastic in helping make sure that the event is still planned, just essentially on, it's going to be done on online and over Twitch, I believe, if I'm correct. May have to double check that.
I think to put in perspective how important GDC is for the gaming industry, last year was where Google Stadia was announced at GDC.
Yeah, they definitely had big plans in the pipeline. I know we've theorized about it quite a bit. Chase, over on your show, I know you've brought it up. What will Google be bringing to the table when it comes to GDC this year? And I think we were all expecting base announcement, no doubt, or some kind of plan for Stadia going, some kind of roadmap for the rest of the year. And we've been so hungry and starved for information regarding Stadia. I think on the anniversary of its announcement, we were kind of all eyes were on GDC, more so than you would have traditionally got, I believe.
Yeah, and what's interesting is that, and I think both Richie and Tom kind of painted a really good picture on this, but Google is kind of in a difficult spot with this, and I'll tell you why. And not necessarily that it's a bad thing, but what's the number one thing that this conference does? It allows you to create partnerships. It allows you to create exposure and opportunities to bring folks onto your platform. That's now getting removed. So what they're going to have to do is they're going to have to focus on alternative means. And that's exactly why you're seeing them move towards this digital offering, because they know that they can't let 5, 6, 7 months go by without having these conversations. They need to try to entice folks to come on board. And here's the thing. What's the other side of the coin? What about folks that are already on the platform and you want to entice them to stay? You need to give them reasons of why they need to consider the platform. And I think, it was always my mindset that there was going to be two things that were going to happen with GDC. We would never get the consumer side announcements during GDC. Everything that would be internally at GDC would all be that, as always, the publisher developer side of the house. But surrounding GDC on the outside, we would get announcements. We would get those consumer type of announcements like Base, with Doom Eternal coming out. So I think, quite honestly, I think this might actually be a little bit of a blessing. I'm going to put a little bit of a positive spin on this, because now we may get some more public-facing announcements on things that we wouldn't have actually got, because now they'll be a little bit more open to get kind of out ahead of things and a little bit more forward-thinking. So it'll be very interesting to watch the next few weeks of what their trajectory is on this.
Yeah, okay. They have announced that they're going to do 2 days of streaming content, which you would imagine all of their speakers they've essentially got. They could easily do a pre-recorded discussion, like similar to which we'll get onto, similar to the Google kind of video they posted midweek, and cover the same content they were initially doing. Just, if anything, they could get it out to more people by just having it digitally distributed. Anyone who was going to tune in for the GDC conferences was surely going to be there regardless. They're going to be watching along live, or they're going to have it in the dock to watch later on when they've got a bit of spare time. What I think this does as being digital is they can just push it more as a purely digital format, and they can get it on social media. They can announce the individual segments, say through Twitter, just as individual breakout sessions, as opposed to it being all lost in the mix of one full day worth of conferences. So I think they can actually control the kind of medium of the way they want this delivered. So it'll be interesting to see how this rolls out. And I suppose it makes it easier for us as well as content creators, because we can take these bits of news and break them out individually.
Yeah, you're almost suddenly like taking you're taking a time limit away from them essentially by moving it to a digital platform, so they can elaborate on certain news stories. And I mean, if you look down the list of talks that were featured for GDC as well, there's some in there that I think us as content creators, but also as gamers as well, could actually enjoy watching there. In particular for me, taking a look through some of the ones that were announced, supercharge your game's discoverability. I have a feeling that's going to link to the YouTube integration right there, which is something that for me, I mean for us in general, is probably a really big thing, because we are content creators. We live on YouTube. This is what we do. So as part of that, I think it's really important for us to know that, but for gamers to know that. So by allowing them to have the opportunity to do this online now, this just sort of opens it up to possibly expanding on what they were planning on talking about originally.
Yeah, I think in general, I think this is going to probably be more impactful actually to the developers and the publishers than it is actually the consumers, because anything consumer focused is still going to come out in some way, shape or form. Because companies have been planning to whatever announcements they're going to make, they still want to do that.
Yeah, so it does look like GDC is going ahead, but more on a broken down digital platform. And I'm sure once, if anything, it gives Google a bit more time with the delay until the summer. It gives them a chance. Any kind of pushback they get from the audience can be rectified. So any news that they were going to initially bring to GDC, if there is an outcry in the Stadia community, we all know what the internet can be like out there. If some of those announcements that roll out in these digital formats don't meet expectations, they have essentially a 2-month or so window to rectify them, tighten the message maybe, and kind of rethink what their marketing strategy is, and then re-announce it at the official GDC in the summer. So they're almost getting 2 cracks at the whip here with the news they want to bring out. And if we as a community, and Chase, I'm sure you'll echo this as well, if people don't hear what they want to hear, there will be a vocal minority out there who are going to push Stadia and say, yeah, we expected this at GDC, we expect this. And all it takes them to say, well, we do have some announcements, we're just going to save them for the official GDC now. So I think if they're quite clever about it, they could break the messaging up between now and the summer announcements.
Yeah, Google have actually said as well they're going to do a digital development summit. There's not a lot of detail on that because it's brand new news and they're probably figuring it out internally, but it's one of them to keep an eye out for. So I'd imagine they're probably going to do something where a lot of the news that was going to be public facing will come there.
And it will. And I think, again, I think that the whole point of that is in a way, it is a blessing, because I think there's things that they have intentionally held close to the vest because they knew timing wise it wasn't the right thing to say. There's also agreements. Like, there's so many things that happen behind the scenes that we don't always think about as gamers, right? We don't always look at that business side of the house. And in the grand scheme of things, that's why I said I think this actually could end up benefiting Google in a sense, because one, it's going to be more deliverable to folks. Digital and being out in that format, more folks can actually get access to this. Not that you can't get access to it by watching the actual live streams, but I mean, just the delivery method and interaction's a lot different when you do it through a digital. But I think the other thing is that now this gives them a little bit more freedom, I think, to maybe talk about things a little freer and a little bit more freely than maybe they would have initially. So I think it's more of a positive thing in a sense. It's not great in regards to face-to-face interactions. You need to be able to have partnerships. You need to create those relationships. So on that end of it, yes, they are losing some things and it's not great there. But I think in the grander view of things in the next few months, this actually might benefit them.
Yeah, it allows them to take stock of essentially what the narrative is out there, and in more time is better for everything. We all know as people who've got a keen eye on game development as a whole, the more time it gets in the oven, the better the cake's going to taste essentially when it comes out. So
I actually like game delays sometimes because it means I have longer to save up for them.
Yeah.
Look at you being strategic.
Yeah, he is indeed.
Being a smart, responsible adult.
So speaking of being responsible with your money and saving those precious pennies, the next story in the news doc this week is we got our free pro games for March. And of course, when I say free, it's free with the caveat we are paying a monthly pro subscription now. So for those of you who resubscribed or left and have now returned upon this announcement of these 3 free games, shame indeed. But essentially, yeah, as of this morning, 1st of March, gentlemen, I presume we've all claimed our free games?
We have.
Yep.
How easy was that? You just jump on the app, claim, done. They're in the catalogue ready to go for the future, as long as you stick with your subscription.
Convenience, man.
It is. It still baffles me almost how we don't speak about this part often enough, but every month to claim these games, it is a simple click of a button, or a touchscreen phone, I should say, and they're there. You could play them within seconds. No downloads, no patches. No 2-hour wait while your shitty internet catches up with the actual file size itself. It is very much click,
clicks.
play, done. You're into the game instantly. And that is so overlooked when people look at Stadia and just go, it's not for me. How does it work? Is it Netflix? And they're still confused by it. I think these are the type of messages that can be showcased so simply. The problem with if you made a YouTube video about it, the video would only last 10 seconds. Yeah. You'd have your introduction, you'd have your capture, and it's done. It's over.
You know what? I've already been spoilt by that convenience, because I turned on my PlayStation the other day for the first time in weeks, and downloads started happening. I went, oh fuck this, and played some more Spitlings.
It really
I
is.
did exactly the same thing, Richie. Literally last night I turned it on, had Netflix updating, Overwatch updating, YouTube app updating, and I just thought, you know what? I can't be bothered. I really cannot be bothered. So nope.
We are spoilt by convenience.
Yes,
already.
But you know what it comes down to though is and this is just like a really quick story, but for those folks out there that you have 45 minutes to game, you don't want either half of that time or 3/4 of that time eaten up by a freaking system update, a game patch, and then once the patch is done, then there might still be a download that comes after it. So it's like, what the you're just like, I can't do this. And then I know back in the day I made this joke, but one of my friends, he actually said on a party chat when we were on PlayStation, he's like, look, I'm gonna go make dinner and I'll be back in an hour. And I'm like, what do you mean you're gonna be back in an hour? Like, we're playing now. He's like, no, it's gonna take an hour to download this patch. I'm like, oh Jesus, let's just play another night. And that shouldn't be what our focus is. When you jump onto a game, it should be to play the game. That's it. So I think Stadia's just done a good job of that. Sorry, I had to throw that in there.
No, I think it's a great story. I think I've mentioned it possibly on the podcast before, but with the Division 1, I remember that was delivered by Amazon. I think it came about 2 o'clock in the afternoon. I wasn't at work that day, so my plan was to just spend all the evening playing Division, the original one, for hours and hours on end. It arrived, put the disc in, day one patch and install, and because it's an online-only game, I could only play the tutorial offline. To get into the main game, it needed to be connected with this day one patch, and the internet on the day was playing up, and it took, I think it was 5 hours potentially to download. So by the time it got round to actually playing the game, I had to kill 4 or 5 hours just getting on with life, I suppose.
You basically grew a beard.
Yeah. Well, Richie could have done. And in the time it takes for that to come around, it's crazy that you can just get into it so quick, and I think we do take it for granted. But hopefully with the Division 2, you're going to get it day one, claim your prize or whatever, and you're in there playing the DLC immediately. So, but to rewind things back to the actual announcement, which is our pro games, we got Grid, we got SteamWorld Dig 2, and we also get SteamWorld Quest, Hand of, is it Gilgamesh? Gilgamesh.
It is.
Gilgamesh.
First point I want to put out on this.
Wasn't that guy from the Smurfs?
Gargamel.
He's the bad guy. Yeah.
Wow.
Hand of Gargamel.
That's a crossover for you.
Wow. Somebody hasn't read their ethics.
Smurfs fit in.
Exposed.
The epic of Gargamel.
Hey, the cover art for SteamWorld Dig 2 very much could be a Smurf with some steampunk glasses on. Who knows?
Quick question on the pro games then. Grid, did anybody see that one coming?
No.
That
was
yet.
a shock.
I thought at some point it might come, but not this soon. I'm kind of glad it's come, because during Stadia Super Saturday, I was seriously considering buying the game, because CloudX Gaming, who were following on from our show, were doing a 40-man street race, and I just couldn't justify the cost at the time. Yeah. So I was like, I'm kind of like glad I waited now.
Yeah, I played through the first few like introductions first, and I think I played the first GT race on it this morning. And I got to say, graphically, it is beautiful, absolutely beautiful. It's not my normal cup of tea in terms of like I'm not much of a racing gamer personally. Not that sort of like serious Gran Turismo, Forza style. I was always more of like a Need for Speed kind of guy, with a little bit of destruction in it, driver, that kind of thing. But I gotta say, it is a really nice game, and I definitely want to get in on some of those 40-man races now.
And we can do it all for free.
Yeah, I was gonna say that it's funny. I mentioned on my Saturday morning Stadia talk that I didn't think that this game had already had a significant like drop in the pro subscription, and God was I wrong. It actually had a pretty significant drop earlier on. I think it was either January or it might have been December. I can't remember which month it was, but they did have a pro deal on the game. But even at that time, it wasn't enough for me to say, hey, I'm willing to drop this kind of cash on this game. So the fact that we're getting it for free, I think it's two awesome kind of lenses, right? So one is, hey, for the people that are considering canceling pro, are they now going to reconsider it? Because now you just got a full price AAA game, right? Or two, is it going to entice folks to come back onto the service? That one's a little bit tougher to gauge. I don't know if this is a game that's going to do that, but
it's still very niche.
Yeah, for me, it's too niche if you think about cancelling. I think it's such a niche game. If you're really into racing games, you probably already have it.
Right.
Which means it's not likely to get you to keep your pro subscription.
Yeah, it's definitely a curious one. I think with Chase, what you're mentioning there around the price tag being it is a AAA full price game, I'd be surprised to think if it's going to pull people back in just based on the value that they essentially feel like they're now getting with it. If you pay your $12.99 subscription and you get back in with a £50 game, it's almost validated itself for another month. And I think this is the great thing with subscription models is you pay that one nominal fee per month and you get this. But I think for Grid, even if it's not for you, from a monetary standpoint, people will look at that catalog, that back catalog of games from previous months, this month, and then any months going forward. And I think the longer this goes on, the more value you can get out of it, especially if they're dropping games that are retailing at $49.99 at the moment.
Right.
Does add a lot to it. Whether you play it or not, it is hard to turn down free money, free gifts, essentially. But hopefully we'll get month on month, we'll just get more, and I think this library is going to build out to a point where you're just going to look at it and think it's worth it for the money, because there's a back catalogue of 50 plus games at some point. I mean, think of where we're going to be in another year or so's time. If they keep giving us 3 games a month, there's going to be nothing left to buy, and then we practically are in that Netflix model without even realizing it, because every game is included.
I think that what's very interesting, and I just literally thought of this right now. Part of, one reason why a lot of us have said that and again, this is just very quick, but just indie games in general, like we needed indie games to fill out these catalogs and to make it, a little bit more expansive. But here's the other side of that. Indie games also could be opportunities for the pro games. And that might be where their route is right now, is they're saying, well, we can't afford to continue to do AAA games on pro every month. Let's try to work with some of these indie developers. We'll cut deals, and then we'll throw these games on pro. I think that's probably what we're likely going to see going forward, is you'll maybe get every quarter you might get a AAA game, but I don't think they can consistently do this. It's a lot of money to be dropping with some of these publishers to consistently give those type of games away.
I think it depends on what games are bringing to the platform. If it's all new games, then I think you'd be right. But if they are bringing old games as well, there's a way of getting a AAA game from a couple of years ago, giving it a bit new life, so the publishers are probably more likely to play ball there.
Yeah.
It's why I still think Doom 2016 will be a pro game when it's finally on the platform.
I do sort of feel along those lines as well there. So, Chase, I'm going to ask you the question that I asked these gents last week. We haven't seen any official price reductions on games on Stadia, and what I mean by that is obviously as the game has existed within the store for so long, we have to see a permanent price reduction at some point for it to essentially still be seen as an eligible purchase. So can you think of any titles that pop out to you when you think of something that is going to be permanently reduced in the coming months?
That's a good question. I would say so, and again, this is where Stadia is, I think, going to be in a tough spot for themselves business wise. They are going to have to start doing that soon, because the market, you're seeing it happen in some of these other storefronts where there are reductions on pricing, even for whatever you want to call non-premium subscribers, right? Just for the general population. So I think part of the reason we haven't seen that is because base isn't there yet. I think once base hits, you will start seeing that happen more regularly. But for me, I think Assassin's Creed at some point we're going to see that drop some, and I also think a couple of the Tomb Raider games. I can't see them continually doing that, but I understand it from the perspective of, why are we going to reduce the prices when the current player base isn't large? We don't have an expansive player base, which they don't. So there's not really an incentive to do that right now. So I think when base hits, that's when we're going to see this happen, probably in a very quick, short order, because the general population is going to be like, why am I going to buy those games there when over on PlayStation or Xbox it's this price?
That's a fair insight. Okay.
Yeah,
I agree with that. I agree.
Yeah.
I do think at the moment that we're sort of looking at, it's a numbers game at the moment, really, isn't it? So they have to, from a business perspective, I completely get that. Like, they have to wait until the numbers are there to effectively make that sort of decision.
Right.
But the reason that question came up is because last week we talked about things going on sale again. So my thoughts are really, are they going to continue doing that for the pro deals? Are we going to continue seeing the same games coming up for sale? Like, one month these games, the next month this other group, and just rotating back and forth? Or are we going to eventually see some of those older titles possibly have a price cut that remains permanent? That's really where I was going with it.
Gotcha. Yeah, I think the answer to your question is yes, there will be permanent price cuts. But I don't see that happening until base rolls out. And for pro, once this catalog becomes larger, then they have more ability to not constantly switch back and forth. Like, it's not always going to be where the next month you see the same games up and then the next month not, and then the next month they're back on again and then the next month not. There's just not enough games right now for them to consistently rotate out for those pro deals. So because of that, they kind of don't have a choice. What are they going to do? They're just going to rip them all away and say, oh, well, you get nothing now. They're not going to do that from a business perspective right now. So
there's certain games that they need this significant price drop, because the irony of Tomb Raider, for example, Shadow of the Tomb Raider is currently on offer for £16.50 over here, and come the 3rd of March, so 2 days time, that's going to jump back up to $49.99 once again. Yet this game on every other storefront is across the board I don't know, less than £20, $25, something along those mark.
I think as well, we've seen a lot of the same games almost have repeat sales as well. And if you're doing that, you're starting to train your player base to not buy games at full price.
Yeah. That's the point I was trying to make with it, really, in a roundabout way.
We were talking about that yesterday. Me and Brian. Brian actually jumped over on the This Week on Stadia podcast, and we were saying that like they are setting folks up with that. It's kind of like a cadence strategy. You know, when you start doing that, then you have people believe that, okay, well, I can wait till the third sale and I'll get it even cheaper than the first sale, because that's basically what's happened with a lot of these games. There's been 2 sales, and then the next sale it's even cheaper. So what happens if that then changes? Well, then now you're going to have an uprising. So I think you guys are right. I don't know that that's necessarily a great idea if you're not going to consistently stick with that.
Yeah. The problem with it being a digital storefront on a mobile device as well is it kind of loses the opportunity for, if you look at PlayStation, Xbox, they have that big banner advertisement almost when you boot up your console of there's a digital sale, there's a summer sale, there's an indie sale, and it kind of feel like when you look at the Stadia app on your mobile device, it seems like it's the same tiles I'm scrolling past every single tab. The pro deals to the games to the list. It seems very similar, and it's almost not laid out in the most ideal way to draw people into.
We did go through months ago. I think it might have been an APK Insight. There was a load of different like filters which they haven't used yet. So I think they will come. I think they'll just target based on what they want to target.
Is this another coming soon trademark?
Well, they've used some of them. We've seen things come and go from the store page, different headings. So.
Yes, we have. Yeah.
So I'd say they're in use. It's just as and when they want to use them.
Yeah. Coming soon. So
not actually a coming soon.
Not coming soon. Coming now. Yeah. So, Tom, have you had a chance to jump into the Steam World, World of Smurfs that you were looking forward to playing?
Steam World. Yeah, I actually put in, I think, about a solid 3 hours into Steam World Quest this morning, actually. And I forgot how much I love that game, actually. It's actually, as far as turn-based role-playing games go, as well as having like an action element to it. Richie, I don't know if you've played it yet, but I think you would genuinely enjoy it. It's really good.
It's a good game. It's a good game.
I haven't had a chance. I might jump on after we finish recording.
Give it a shot. Give it a shot for an hour or so. Give it a solid hour. It's essentially a turn-based role-playing game. You move around the world with your character and interact with the environment. But it's also built with the actual battle system is built with a deck building element to it. So if you like trading card games essentially as well, each of your characters has their skill sets are based on decks you have to build, and when you battle enemies you have to draw cards from the deck, and you can you have the opportunity to reshuffle certain cards and so on as well. But it's a really cool mechanic. It's a really cool mechanic.
Yeah, I'll definitely give it a go. I was planning to anyway.
I just bought a lamp from a mechanic on Steam World Dig 2 so I could go into the mine. Nice. To do some more digging.
Whack your head.
So don't whack your head, yeah. But yeah, I've played about an hour or so Steam World Dig 2, and it's very much more of Steam World Dig. If you're a fan of the first game, it's that again with a separate protagonist at the beginning. But I don't know where it goes. I'll just have to keep digging and see where that takes me.
Keep on digging, Chris.
Keep on digging. Dig it. Give us Dig Dug on Stadia. But aside from that, we got 3 games, good variety, a good mix, and I think there's something in there to kind of appeal to everybody, I think, on some degree. But again, now we've got 3 games. So does that mean we're getting 4 next month, gentlemen?
Well, can I say before we move on, actually, we got Steam World Dig 2 and we got Steam World Quest, but where's Dig and Heist?
Ooh, good choice.
See,
Dig and Heist?
I was really shocked when I went into the storefront this morning. I purposely looked to see if those other games were available for purchase. And I was like, this is so that, and I don't want to take too much time on that, but that is very curious. Why are those games not there? If these other 2 games were ready and then you announce the other 2 games as coming to Stadia as well, what's going on? Why didn't those come onto the platform at the same time? Very, very curious. And we'll have to see what Stadia says in the coming days, because I do think this is something that media outlets are going to pick up on, and they're going to say, why did these 2 games show up but the other 2 didn't? And what is Stadia going to answer to that? It'll be very interesting.
So
just the process of actually getting them on the platform. I'd imagine it's probably going to be there by the end of next week.
Yeah, it just seems like a missed opportunity, though.
Yeah.
It's very peculiar to then have the original game come out after they've give you the second one for free.
Exactly.
If it would have, you would have thought give you the first game for free and people will buy the second one probably in a pro deal 2 weeks from now.
Exactly.
Is the way they would rather have it. But yeah, again, we don't know what goes on behind the scenes, but it seems like a very odd rollout again. And because we don't have these concrete dates set in stone, it is just that nefarious coming soon.
Yeah.
Who knows?
I think that's the thing. It's another Google's communication. If they told us the excuse is that the reason, it's probably very simple.
Mm-hmm.
And yeah, fine.
It could be certification too. And again, if that's the case, then that's an easy answer for them to say the game's not ready yet, hasn't passed certification. It will be shortly, and then just let it go and just let it go.
Yeah. We prioritize SteamWorld Digging 2 and Quest to get them out there.
Yeah, simple and sweet. But they have had a lot of attention on other games at the moment. So Richie, I'll throw this one over to you because we got some Stadia / PC, but we won't talk about that. Exclusive content that came out this week with a Baldur's Gate 3 reveal, and it was about 2 hours worth of gameplay. Which to anyone who's excited, I saw the internet, Reddit and stuff kind of set alight with how exciting this is. And I actually seen an IGN article that was positive about Stadia and how the benefits of the platform can bring and what they can bring to Baldur's Gate to kind of bring it to life. So do you want to drill down into that a bit more, Richie?
Well, first of all, I just want to caveat everything I'm about to say by I'm still going to buy this game day one. I am still very hyped for this game. But from the gameplay, it's not Baldur's Gate.
Ooh,
it's
controversial. Smurfs 3.
I don't think it's controversial at all. It's not. It's just that's Divinity.
But you know what the thing is for me is that it's the evolution of what this game should be though. I know. Listen, because I'm in some, and I don't want to take Richie's thunder away, but I'm in some communities that are talking about this, and you're not the first person to say that. And I will be very honest. The first 2 games do not play like this. They absolutely do not. They're not like this at all.
That's a fun. I think there needs to be evolution because of the very old games now. There needs to be an upgrade to something, but it just feels like they haven't upgraded the Baldur's Gate format. They've used the Divinity format and then tagged on Baldur's Gate a bit. I may be reading too much in there, but.
Well, surely Baldur's Gate is all about like the lore building around the world and so on. Because again, as a big D&D enthusiast myself, and with the whole world building, I know exactly which world it is. I know I've read tons and tons of the fiction novels and so on. There, is it not just the world building and not so much the gameplay style?
I think it's both for me. I do like that classic turn-based RPG. I was hoping that a modernization of it. It just, I don't know, it just felt a bit too close to Divinity for me.
I don't think it is though, and I'll tell you why I don't think it is. So visually, I do think they look very similar. Okay, and I don't want to be disingenuous, and I think maybe that's where if someone just turned this on and said, "What is this? Is this a Divinity game?" They might say that. Yeah. But the reason that I have hope that this is not the same game, number one, this looks like Divinity looks in a pre-alpha state. These graphics are only going to get better. They're only going to get enhanced. They're not going to be the same. The way that the camera angle is for the isometric view is a little bit different than Divinity. The way that they have it set up, it's not exactly the same. And the player movements are not the same either. So also the turn-based battle combat with the D20 rolls, not necessarily the same as Divinity. So there are big differences. I think they're using a similar engine, but I don't think it's exactly the same. So for me, I didn't watch it and go, this is Divinity. I actually felt like it was, I can tell it's a Larian game, but it doesn't feel like the same game to me.
Yeah, I think it's probably just, it feels a lot closer to Divinity than the old Baldur's Gate, the original games. That's probably where I'm getting it wrong. And the fact, so far, we've had no real connection to the story of Baldur's Gate 1 and 2.
Right, so a question for you three, who clearly seem like seasoned Baldur's Gate players over there. I'm sure I'm not alone alongside our listeners here when I say I have no clue about 1 or 2 or Divinity or anything like this. All that conversation you just had. give me the elevator pitch, because I watched the cinematic reveal. I saw a giant octopus man, Davy Jones from Pirates of the Caribbean, be attacked by 3 dragons from Game of Thrones with some goblins from Lord of the Rings, and it looked very hectic. Graphically, it looked beautiful, but I have no fucking clue what's going on. They jump through some Sonic the Hedgehog style rings. It went from world to world.
I feel personally attacked here. I don't know about you guys.
Listen. I'll sell it to you in 30 seconds.
Amazing. Like, don't get me wrong, I was like, yes, I'm into this, all this crazy shit that's going on. But, yeah, no clue. Give me a 60-second elevator pitch of what the hell is happening.
I'll give you 30 seconds. It's 4 games into one, okay? If you liked Dragon Age, if you liked Elder Scrolls, if you liked Diablo, if you liked Final Fantasy, those are the 4 games that are basically in this game. It has all of those elements. If you like dungeon crawlers, you're going to have that element with looting. If you like deep character customization, you're going to get deep character customization. If you like the MMORPG style of Dragon Age, you're going to get that with this game. If you like Divinity Original Sin 2, and here I am now, I'm agreeing with Richie, then you'll like this game. So it has all of those elements in it, and I think that's why it's going to be a great game. There you go.
Oh, yeah. I mean, I actually do like Divinity. So if it plays like Divinity, it's just not what I wanted.
But Richie, too much.
I know.
I'm such a D&D nerd at heart as well, and I love the Forgotten Realms sort of setting. So for me, Baldur's Gate is just like it's just the sweet spot for me. And as a massive Diablo fan as well, it's just cannot wait. Now, interesting question on the game then, guys. Obviously, this looks, coming to Stadia, being as it's Stadia and PC, this looks like it might be the first Stadia-centric game that's focused more on the keyboard mouse element as opposed to the gamepad gameplay. What do you think?
Absolutely.
I'm gonna disagree only because of this. Larian in the past has done a really good job of, and this is gonna be the first real test for them because their transition from PC to console always has taken a year. So like with Divinity Original Sin 2, it came out I think 2017, and then the game came out 2018 on consoles. So they're going to have to develop this in simultaneous fashion for both keyboard and mouse. I think for the actual early access, and I guess we'll get into this in a second, but I think that might be locked behind early access. Like you may not be able to use a controller. They may say you can only play early access with Stadia if you have a keyboard and mouse. That I could see them doing.
I could see there being gamepad day one because they've already done it for Divinity and they're clearly using the same engine or an upgraded version of it, so it's probably not that bad. What I'm saying is it's probably the development of it is probably being centered around playing with keyboard and mouse rather than centered around playing with a gamepad.
Okay. Well, and just real quick, one thing just so that folks don't get scared off about this. Larian has always done a really Larian's always done a really good job of, like with the console, they provide character wheels. It's no different than any other MMORPG where you hit the trigger, you use your analog stick, and you pick whatever action you want to take. With keyboard and mouse, of course, it's more linear, it's more horizontal, facing, where you actually would click the action. So it will be set up in that same mindset, and Richie's absolutely correct. So I just wanted to clarify that.
And the game's turn-based mechanically anyway, so it's not, you're not going to be rushed or what button to how to access. So sometimes these action wheels can be quite cumbersome when you're playing real time, but in turn-based you can take your time, make decisions. The gameplay is meant to be very strategic.
Okay. Good. A bit like XCOM.
In some ways, yeah. I think there is some. I think part of XCOM are probably inspired. The Baldur's Gate series is one of them that has inspired so many other genres of games.
Yeah.
I laughed there, Tom, but I could have said Rabbids with Mario and Rabbids. Yeah. That turn-based strategy game over on the Switch.
So, having never played Baldur's Gate 1 or 2 myself, and I feel quite ashamed to say this now.
Yeah, you should be. You should be,
yes,
Tom.
Chris, yes. No, and it's only because, again, D&D and Forgotten Realms is very close to my heart. I'm assuming that being as it is, again, within the Forgotten Realms universe, gameplay-wise, still quite similar to Neverwinter Nights, perhaps?
I think there was Icewind Dale, Planescape Torment, Baldur's Gate, and Neverwinter Nights, all came out roughly the same time with the same engine. So mechanically, there's a lot of comparison.
Fine. Okay.
I'm probably using even the same D&D rule set as well.
Yeah.
Great. I'm all for it then.
Yeah.
All for it.
Get the enhanced editions and play them. They're great.
Yeah.
Or
If
bring
only
them
they were
to
on Stadia.
Yeah, I was gonna say they're on PC right now, like really cheap. You can get them for like a really like cost-effective price. I think Baldur's Gate 1 is like $5 or something right now on Steam. So like if you're not into these games already and you want to get an idea of what like the lore is, what the like the backstory is, because there will be some connections between the first two games to the third one.
There has to be.
There will be, but for folks that have never played the first two, here's the good news. This is a brand new story. It's a brand new chapter. And if you've never played the first two, it's not like you'll be completely lost. And I will say that.
Oh, yeah. I'm okay with it being a brand new story, but they have to link it somehow, especially if you remember, you can play through one, then literally port your character and just continue playing into two. They're almost a single game.
Well, that was the beauty of BioWare at that time. So,
So before we wrap up on this one, then, does Davy Jones have a name? Is this
Mind
big
Flayer.
bad octopus
It's a
guy?
mind flayer.
I'm guessing
Mind Flayer.
this guy will have a name.
All right, he better have a cool name because he seemed
Mind
really
flayer from the
badass.
Underdark.
He seemed a bit like that guy in Endgame, Avengers Endgame. Infinity War could just control shit, but he had tentacles this time as opposed to
Squidward.
looking like Squidward. Yeah, exactly.
his name officially will be Hello, my name is Chris.
Dead. But as we know, plenty of games, and it's nice to see Stadia's library fleshing out a little bit with a few more games. But if Baldur's Gate isn't up your street or your crazy Sonic the Hedgehog hoop that you'll be jumping through with dragons, we've got some dates and other releases on Stadia. So we got the Serious Sam collection launches the 3rd of March. So if you're listening to this now, it comes out tomorrow. If you're listening to us on a Monday, on your commute, as Chase will be listening to himself back and laughing along with the way. We've also got Lost Words, which is the little indie title Tom's really intrigued by.
I'm excited by this as well.
And Richie's intrigued by as well. That's coming out March 27th. And we got some Farming Simulator DLC as well. So for those of you who rewind the clock back to last year when we got Farming Simulator 19 as a free program, time to jump back in. March the 10th, they have DLC, which I do not care to pronounce because it looks French of some sort. Any clue on this word, gentlemen? Borgalant? Borgalt? It sounds like some Baldur's Gate shit.
No idea. Not going to try.
Anyone, what is it?
Chris.
Maybe this is the name of the Mind Flayer thing. He's called Borgalt.
I'm guessing it's maybe a brand of tractor or something.
It is, yeah. It's Borgo Industries, a Canadian-based company with, they've been creators of farming machinery. I'm reading this straight from an article, just so you know. No, they are the Canadian-based company that have been developing machinery for the farming industry for quite some time. So, Farming Simulator traditionally, the DLC is usually around new machines to use within it. So
there's
there you
no
go.
campaign or anything like that. It's just
No story mode. No extra pets you can purchase from us. Like that.
If
I know,
memory
Chris.
serves, Farming Simulator, they did say they weren't going to bring out a new version and they're just going to keep supporting this one for a while. So this is that, really.
We'll get the Caterpillar DLC and everything else that comes in tandem with it. But okay, I've learned something there then. So that is a brand of tractor, apparently, for anyone out there.
I love how matter of fact Tom said it. Like, you guys should all just know this. The fact that it's been for some time.
Yeah. Tom lives in a more rural part of the UK than we do, and he'd say he's well versed.
He really doesn't.
he doesn't. But anyway, so speaking of agriculture, I'm going to segue into something that's got nothing to do with agriculture. Farmers often have spittoons, especially in the United States, where they'll spit the chewing tobacco into. Speaking of spittoons, Tom, we've got a segment I'd like to move into, which is you spent some time playing a new little indie darling that came out on Stadia exclusively.
Oh, yes, I did.
I don't
know.
know.
Talking about, Chris?
Spittoons, tobacco, octopus men, and a bunch of other stuff. But if you'd like to enlighten us more to what you got up to this last week.
Absolutely. So you might be talking about a little indie game that came out last week called Spitlings. Spitlings by Massive Mini Team. And what a freaking game this is. What a game. This actually blew my mind about compared to what I was expecting. This just completely took my experiences with Stadia from switching it on for a couple of hours every night to literally wanting to jump back onto Stadia every single day just to carry on playing it. Like, indie titles can be addictive. They can be usually completed within a few hours or so, but the difficulty between some of the levels is at such a level that it's really challenging me, and it's really sort of getting me into it. So just to talk about the game briefly, it is a 2D, essentially arcade style game. It has hardcore difficulties to it, so it can be quite challenging to a certain effect. It has a story mode, it has a party mode, but my god, is it fun. It's cute, it's crazy, but damn is it difficult. What do you think, gents?
I think you're right in your assessment there, Tom. It's very much easy to play, difficult to master kind of indie game setup, where jumping in, got the kind of basic constructs of how to play the game within a matter of seconds. The initial tutorial segment is really, really easy, very, very quick to pick up and play. But some of the damn time trials, you're right, and the rate in which you unlock new characters, it's very similar to the way mobile games kind of keep you on tender hooks with constantly unlocking new characters, almost like every couple of minutes if you're quite good at the early stages, to a point where every time the level finishes and it gives you that whole showcase of all the characters you've unlocked in a big pile-on. It does really well to get its hooks in you and keep you wanting more, unlocking that next character. And the levels are so kind of easy to jump between. I've thoroughly enjoyed it. I've finished the story. The final boss, if you can call it a boss, I suppose, took me many, many deaths to overcome. Until the frustrating it got, but the satisfaction at the end when I finally defeated it, and then realised I had all the time trials and the B-sides to go back to.
Yeah, I'm still in like
really
floor 5, and for those who don't know, you count down the floors as you go through the game rather than up. So I've got about 5 floors to do.
So I am a real stickler for completing things in logical order. So rather than it's some sort of weird OCD that I have, that I cannot move on to a new level until I've 100%ed the current area that I am at. And this game is beating me shitless as a result of it. Like there is no other way of describing it, because I am now at a point where I spent 30 minutes. I've beaten time trials. Time trials are done, but I cannot beat certain B-sides in this game. The B-sides are the terms for certain. They're sort of, they take the levels from the story mode, and once you've beaten the time trials for them, there's 3 time trials for each zone, each level. And once you've completed the time trials and beaten the times, you then are presented with the B-side, which is the same level but made much more difficult. And I want to have words with these guys about what is going through their minds with some of these B-sides, because I don't even, like, I literally do not even.
You say you're doing, like, to go through a logical order. I think the logical order is probably to get to the end of the game, then go back and do the time trials and the B-sides. So you're not doing it in a logical order.
No, I'm not, but I'm such a completionist that it really just irks me.
A lot of the B-sides bring in mechanics that you find on later floors.
Yeah, I do respect that. There was a B-side I went into when they suddenly started having these glowing orbs. So rather than the actual balls that you have to pop, essentially, there were these glowing orbs that start moving around, similar to the bullets that you might come across halfway through the game. But these orbs bounce around and they hug walls and they start, oh my god, no.
Let me just say that this game, and I'm going to say this now, this game's going to end up being a cult classic. And I don't say that lightly. You know, there's a lot of games that have come out over the years that have been indie games and indie titles. And I just go, it's a great game. It's a good game. It'll be fun for a little bit. They have so much potential to just expand this game and make it deeper and have more elements to it that I can easily see this being one of those, that they have that top 15 or top 20 games of the year, when you see in storefronts. This, I think, will end up being in a top 10 place for a lot of storefronts for a lot of people. And I also think it's a game that we could easily see a Spitlings too. Because I think they know they've got a winner, and you can see it in the way that their faces are when they were watching your guys' stream, Tom.
That was amazing.
You can see the love that they'd put into this game, but I really truly think that this is a a winner. It's a cult classic, and we're going to be talking about this game for many years to come.
And it's fully deserving of that title right there.
Yeah.
Now, at this point, I do want to segue slightly because noticing the time, I feel like I can say it now because by the time that this podcast episode airs, the tweet's already gone out. It's already been announced. It's out there. But we are launching a new series over on our YouTube channel as well, which will be called Spitlings Spectacular. Because we feel this game deserves the love and respect of the Stadia community, and not just the Stadia community. But when this game goes live across other platforms as well, which it'll be going to Xbox, PS4, it'll be going over to Switch as well, heading over to PC. People need to know just how good this game is. Now, we've been extremely fortunate, and I feel really blessed to say this, but each episode will feature a special guest. Now, the first special guests that we have lined up are the development team themselves. They are really, really supporting us with this, and like I say, I'm so proud to announce that we will be launching the very first episode with playing alongside the development team. So cannot wait.
Guys, that is, I just have to say this real quick as an outside person that enjoys your podcast, loves your podcast. You guys are absolutely deserving of this. Amazing. And I think it'll showcase the game even further, which is exactly what should be happening. This game deserves, I'm terrible at math, so when I say 125%, don't judge me, but this game deserves like more than 100% of love because it's that good of a game. And that is just absolutely phenomenal. I can't even say enough words about it. That's awesome.
Completely. And that's what drove us to come up like with the idea of doing this, is because since picking it up, there has just been so much love for it within the Stadia community, within our own little community here, but also like the effort the developers have put in. And as you said, Chase, when we saw the video footage back of the love they were showing towards content creators, like showcasing their game, they deserve it. Like they're fully deserved of the attention, and that's why we really wanted to do something special with them. So
it felt like they were playing along with us, the way they celebrated when we finally completed that bloody level.
Yeah,
Duncan.
Yeah, Duncan.
Yeah, that's become a meme unto itself. But I think we wanted to thank definitely the creators of there, the community as a whole, and obviously Tom, yourself for taking the kind of initiative and doing that Let's Play with them and reaching out to them and kind of ironing the creases out of this deal. But we had a great time. I think I watched along. I think Richie playing it and Duncan and everyone else, Ben and everyone who joined in too. But the great thing with this series is we want to kind of keep it going, and we definitely think the game's got legs, especially with the party mode. So why not just keep it going? We've got community events going. I think other podcast influencers are doing it with the likes of Grid. People are playing Destiny in the community. So why not? If it's Stadia's current exclusive indie title, we want to put that on a platform and champion it. I think deservedly so. Because I've had a fantastic time with it and playing it on the move. It's great, and we're going to do some more party mode stuff as well. But we probably plan to do this with more games going forward.
But one other thing I would just like to say as well is, for those of you who haven't had the opportunity to pick it up yet, first of all, I would strongly suggest that you do head over to YouTube, you head over to Twitch, you just check out some of the content creators out there to see what this game actually is and how it plays. For any of you who are of an older gaming history, these are like your old school like 80s arcade machines. This is such a good game. The game I compare it to most is, there was an old game I used to play called Pang, which was I can't remember the developers of it off the top of my head actually. Was it a Konami game? Don't quote me on that. Don't quote me on that. But again, you play as these two little gents who ran around. You fired hooks into the air, and you'd have to pop these big balls. And obviously, it's definitely had some inspiration from that. Now, the big thing I do want to say right here as well is we have not yet had the editor for this, the level editor. And I know Massive have already come out and said they're looking to patch it in future. But as soon as they open up that opportunity for players to be able to create their levels, can you imagine what's going to happen? It's going to be brilliant.
Some Mario Maker shit going on right there.
Yeah, it's That's why I said this game has just got so much ripe opportunity to really be something that is it's going to stand. And again, it's so early to say this about a game, but I think this is a game that may stand the test of time. And I don't say that lightly. I haven't said that about a game in quite some time. But I think all the nostalgia, like you said, Tom, the fact that it's that Commodore 64, that Atari 2600 type of feel, but with a new age spin with, you get to find out who died on your team and basically just, shame on you, friend.
Yeah.
It's just awesome. It's just awesome.
Yeah. So plenty of exciting stuff on the horizon for ourselves. If you haven't checked the video already out with the development team jumping in and playing along and watching Tom, it's still available on our YouTube channel. We will put it in the description for this week's podcast. But that brings us to a close, gentlemen. We've been running for 1 hour and 10 minutes nearly. It seems so short-lived, Chase. We've had you on as a special guest, and it's flew over. But yeah, so usual scenario. If you've not checked out our YouTube channel, head over there and subscribe for more videos, because we do plan on rolling more out in the imminent future. If you're not subscribed to the podcast, you'll get it on all of our free feeds that come out week in week. Every Monday, we come to you live for your commute. And I think I wanted to finally wrap up with one question for you, Chase. We used to have a segment on this show called What's Stadia? And you are our first guest from across the pond, our honorary United States citizen. Have you got any interesting facts about Florida that you'd like to bring to the table that we may be unawares of?
Facts about Florida.
Yeah.
Man. Well, I mean,
you on the
had,
spot.
yeah. Well, no, I mean, you had one that was really, really good, which is the citrus industry. Back in the 80s, there was actually a major freeze here, which, I mean, for y'all, frozen is like, what do you speak of? You don't know even what that means, you pesky Floridian. But there was a massive freeze in the 80s, and because of that, it actually turned the state more towards a tourist industry, and that's what the movement was towards with, Disney and Universal and all the other tourist types of things. So our economy changed. It was very much an agricultural economy, and then it switched over to more of a tourist and hospitality economy. So.
Did they have any of those beluga and tractors over there by any chance during that time?
Jesus, Tom, why did you do this?
Yeah. Tom will fill you in. But no, as a tourist myself, and I think Tom will attest to this, is like I love Florida just purely because of Disney. That was the main thing. Me and the missus move over there. Would live there if we could afford it, to be honest. But there's obviously a lot more to it. So I thought I'd bring back that for you veteran listeners out there, the What Stadia segment.
Segment.
Faded away with time because the news is just so thick and fast. We don't have time to spend talking about. Look, well, again,
so many things to talk about.
Over 1 hour in, and we didn't even get through all this week topics. So at one point we will do a spin-off show, which will pick up all the loose thing. We might even do a live
game
chat.
show.
Yeah, an actual game show. But there were other announcements, but they're not as important, so we'll pick those up at a later date. Or if you check out Chase over on This Week, and is it This Week In or On? I always get that confused.
Yeah, so you know what I realize, and it's so difficult. So I have the Saturday morning Stadia Talk, which is just for my channel, and then the This Week on Stadia podcast is the one that I do with Eddie. And I know it gets confusing because there's the two things. So that's basically both shows. If you go back and listen to them, I kind of did a deep dive on everything, and even the APKs, which I think is the big one that everyone was looking at this past week.
Yeah. Yes, that was in our doc, and then we missed out on it due to time constraints. But, time. There's never enough time. So, yes, thank you, everyone, for tuning in this week to episode 23 of the Sounds of Stadia podcast. Don't forget to follow us on Twitter. Follow Chase over on @PhantomUFC fan. Correct? Not Manchester United Football Club fan, which I saw someone pick out in one of your previous shows as well. So yes, it's a UFC, and I've been joined by Chris and Tom at the same time. So thank you for listening. I've been Chris.
I've been Tom.
I've been Richie.
Oh, and I've been Chase.
And you've been Chase. Thank you very much for joining us. Thank you for listening, everyone. Enjoy your week. Get to some Stadia gaming. Catch you soon. Goodbye.
Bye.
Pangas Capcom.
tractors.